Hello and welcome to another edition of the Here We Go podcast. I am your host, Trent Ging. Today, I'm going to be talking about a couple of videos that surfaced yesterday. Should we put some stock into these off-season workout videos that we see? Should we put stock into these pictures that people are posting with their workouts? I'll talk a little bit about that. Now, I'll be upfront about this. This episode is going to be 100% opinion-based. There's not going to be a whole lot of factual data to really back any of this stuff up. But I think it's important to talk about because as fans, we tend to fall for this stuff way more often than I think we should. So the two videos that I'm talking about, one was Russell Wilson and Najee Harris working out at UCLA. The other video was Justin Fields working out with George Pickens, among others, at this, I think it was an Elite 11 event. So here's where I think things are interesting and at the same time, not at all interesting. Number one, you have your passing quarterback, which is what I would consider Russell Wilson to be. Yes, he has mobility, but he's primarily a passing quarterback, especially at his age, working out with the team's running back. Now, Najee Harris is still the team's lead running back until we see it change on the depth chart. I do think it's 1A and 1B. I don't think there's a starter and a backup in this rotation. But nevertheless, he's not out there training with a wide receiver. He's training with our lead running back. Then on the flip side of that, you have Justin Fields, a running quarterback, working out with George Pickens, the undoubted and unquestioned team's number one wide receiver. So how much should we really look into these as, oh, well, Russ last year was a check down quarterback. Here we go. He's going to be a check down quarterback again because he's working with Najee instead of the wide receiver room. I don't think it's that simple. And I'm not sure if anybody's making that argument yet, but I just can see it coming. But I don't think it's quite that simple. Russell Wilson's a guy who carries a label. He carries a label as a guy who's not a great teammate. I mean, we heard that early in this offseason process. There were people who were coming out of the woodwork to kind of bash his reputation. And so far, we've seen Russell Wilson trying to integrate himself into Pittsburgh. He's been at every event that you could possibly go to. He's had his family there. He's had his kids there. He's been really making a concerted effort to get out into the public and make himself seen and hopefully make himself loved by this city, the fans, and his teammates, because he has been taking his teammates out with him a lot. Najee Harris was a team captain prior to the arrival of Kenny Pickett. To me, this is another form of Russell Wilson trying to bring himself into a guy who's a leader on the team, who has a strong voice on the team, and whether he is a captain or not, when Najee Harris talks in the locker room, that offensive staff is going to listen. Russ is trying to get on Najee's good side, develop a chemistry with him, show he's a good teammate with Najee Harris, so that it helps dig more into that buy-in from the rest of the offense. I think that is what this is about for Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson does not, I mean, does it matter who he trains with? I don't think it does. I mean, this guy's a professional. And I don't think the person he trains with is going to have any effect on whether his season is successful or whether it's not. But what does matter is that the stuff that came out of Denver And the stuff that you heard about him having issues with some of the front office and Pete Carroll out of Seattle gets laid to bed so that he can try to revive his career here in Pittsburgh. He's all business right now. And he's making business decisions. He's not here to live a lavish lifestyle. He knows that if he wants to continue playing and he wants an opportunity to win these 2 to 3 Super Bowls that he's talked about, he needs this season to go really, really well. And the only way that's ever going to happen is if he gets the total buy-in from everybody on this offense. The coaching staff already believes in him. They wouldn't have brought him here if they didn't believe in him. He doesn't need to win them over. He needs to win over the teammates. And to me, this is nothing more than another opportunity to win over one of the major voices on this offense. So would you like to see the guy that's your presumptive starting quarterback working out with receivers? Yeah, absolutely. You want that chemistry. You want the timing to be down. But I think this move, from his standpoint, makes a ton of sense. And I'm not sure anybody's ever accused Russell Wilson of not being an intelligent guy. He's making a very calculated move right now. So to me, it makes a ton of sense. You get to spend time with a guy who's a very integral part of this offense. He's going to, regardless of who ends up being listed as the official starter, or maybe they just list both the starters again this year, it doesn't matter. Najee has a voice. Russell Wilson needs to make sure that Najee likes him, because it's going to help to smooth things over with the rest of this offense. Now, Justin Fields, the knock on Justin Fields is he's a great runner, but he can't throw the football efficiently. So why not work out with the team's number one wide receiver? Get into favor with George Pickens. And if George starts to like you as a quarterback, then maybe George starts to nudge the coaching staff along that this is your guy. Justin has a lot to prove because his career has never truly taken off. He's never had a lot of success in the NFL. And he knows he was in a horrible position. And he knows that this could be a shot for him to revitalize his career. So for him, it does make a ton of sense to work out with a guy like George Pickens so that he can really start to get that timing down. And once camp comes around, he looks a little bit more sharp. You need every advantage when there's a guy in, quote, pole position. And a lot of people don't believe this is an actual quarterback competition. I think more of the national media believe it's a quarterback competition than those who are in the Pittsburgh media. I mean, look, when Tomlin says there's a guy in pole position, that means he's locked in to that starting position until proven otherwise. I mean, we saw that with the quarterback competition from last year. It was Kenny Pickett's job to lose. And of course, he did lose it at the end of the season. But it took until the end of the season. Coach Tomlin's not a guy who's going to quickly change his mind and pivot and go to Justin Fields just because Russell struggles a little bit early on. So Justin has to know he's in a position where he has to not just play better than Russell Wilson. He has to play a lot better than Russell Wilson. And what better way to start that process than to build timing with the team's number one wide receiver? We don't even know who the team's number two wide receiver is. But if Justin is smart, even after this camp has ended, I would try to get George Pickens, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III, and Van Jefferson, along with Pat Freiermuth, all in a facility to train together all until this training camp starts. Because right now he's going to need all the help he can get. Now another photo of Justin and his workouts surfaced, and of course that sparked a ton of buzz. Oh, look at Justin! Justin's a tank. Blah 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 blah. As fans, we overreact to everything this time of year. There is no football. We're in the dead zone, the dead period of football. There's nothing for us to talk about. So all of a sudden, a picture flashes a guy who has been jacked since he was in college, looking jacked in the NFL, and we're like, oh my God, look at the work he's putting in. He looks like a tank. He's going to be the guy that, listen, I don't know if any of y'all saw pictures of Tom Brady or Drew Brees or Peyton Manning. They didn't look shredded, and they were damn good quarterbacks. Of course, Justin Fields is an athletic phenom. But looking shredded in a picture isn't going to make him a better quarterback tomorrow. We need to see it on the field. So let's calm down with the overreaction to a picture being taken. And let's just focus on the play on the field. That's why I think it's so vital for him to start to work out with these wide receivers and get the timing down now rather than waiting until he gets into camp. So, personally, as a guy who hopes Justin Fields emerges from this thing as a potential franchise quarterback, I was happy to see he's working with George. I mean, I really am. If those two build a chemistry in the same way that I think you saw DJ Moore building chemistry with Justin Fields, those two put up pretty dang good numbers together. I mean, DJ Moore had about 1,500 yards and roughly 10 touchdowns. And I think as fans, that's exactly what we're hoping to see out of George Pickens this year. If he gives us that kind of season, we're going to be really, really happy as him being our number one, because it shows now he's a proven guy. So I'm not sure how much thought process went into this, or if this was like an invitation type thing. I honestly can't say I know a ton about what this camp was or what this training was. So I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about it. But I will say this. Whether it was intended or not, it's a smart move. So Russell Wilson and Justin Fields are in two totally different places right now. And I think it's a smart move on both parts, the way that this thing is unfolded. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, even though I'm rooting for Justin to win this competition, I know it's not going to happen week one. If it happens, it's happening because Russell Wilson's not playing good and our team has a losing record. And they're going to just give it to Justin and see what he can do. So while I'm advocating for Justin to work out with the wide receivers, it also makes a ton of sense for Russell Wilson to work out with our wide receivers and start building some chemistry now too. Veteran quarterbacks usually take a different path in the offseason. They work out with their team and their guys. But from everything that we've seen from Russell Wilson, trying to really dig in his sinking his claws into Pittsburgh and trying to get that reciprocated back to him, it would really make a ton of sense for him to start working out with these guys who are going to be catching passes from him all season. So while I don't think this is much of a quarterback competition, it's funny to watch the reaction that you see from some of these things online. And it's so easy to get a reaction out of these things right now just because there's nothing else to talk about. Everything that we're doing right now as fans is speculation. And we don't truly know how things are going to unfold. I mean, this thing could turn into a real serious quarterback competition as camp rolls on. Maybe Russ does struggle a little bit and Justin comes out of the gates hot. Who knows? But one thing's for sure, as fans, we love our 15-second clip videos. And even when Latrobe starts to open up and fans start attending and you start seeing these videos coming out and media starts giving their reports on some of these things that they see happening, whether it's a true competition or not, you better believe that people are going to be talking about it. It's going to be the most talked about thing throughout this offseason, just because we're going to see some 15-second clips where Justin Fields looks like he's just the guy. And we're going to see clips of Russell Wilson throwing that moon ball to George Pickens and others, and he's going to look like the guy. And you're going to have a divided fan base arguing about who really is the guy. My recommendation is to let it play out on the field. Don't take every 15-second clip you see as the total picture of what's happening at that camp. Athletically gifted guys flash every year. That's why Calvin Austin III has been a guy who's been talked about each year he's been here. He's got a different gear to his game. Everybody talks about it. You see, once he's got his hands on the ball, he's got a different gear. Right? I mean, we've fantasized about this guy being a big part of this offense for 3 seasons now. We lost him for year 1. Year 2, was he underutilized? Or is he just not very good? I think it's both. But that guy's going to flash again, and we're going to hear the rumblings about Calvin Austin III once again. Don't take big plays as the total picture. That's my only warning. Wait until some of the reporting comes out. Read about what you're hearing and see if they line up. The people who are in Pittsburgh media who are trying to give an unbiased opinion on what's happening in camp and reporting what they see throughout the entire days of camp instead of just the 15-second videos, you guys really need to look into those things, because sometimes we make these nonsensical arguments about who's better just because we saw a video of, oh my gosh, this guy looked like he was great. And that's the Calvin Austin videos every year. I hope Calvin Austin does really well. And I hope we see the flashes that he shows at times starting to become a consistent pattern. But I think he's going to have a little bit of an uphill climb if he really wants to be that wide receiver too, and if he wants to be known as more than just a gadget guy. That route running has to be refined, and we have to see it consistently in Latrobe. Also, sometimes certain wide receivers are better with certain quarterbacks. Does he mesh well with Russell Wilson? Could he be the Steelers' version of Tyler Lockett? Russ has had a guy he played with for years in Lockett that was a smaller guy who turned out to be a pretty dang good receiver. And I think Austin would take that kind of a career all day long. Does Justin Fields have the accuracy to throw to a guy that's that size? Maybe, maybe not. So the chemistry that these wide receivers build with those quarterbacks can go a long way to determining their fate as well. So what I would advise everybody as I wrap this thing up is not to fall victim of 15-second video clips. Don't fall victim to an off-season workout. Let this thing play out in camp. Read the articles from the guys who are there, who are trying to report this stuff as unbiasedly as they possibly can. And there are some out there. There's a lot of homers in Pittsburgh, but there's some out there that are trying to tell you the truth. Don't get mad if you don't hear what you like. Take it with a grain of salt and understand that they're just coming from a place of trying to give you the information that happened that day. Then you can form a true opinion on what's happening and who you want to be your starter at each position. So this is a shorter video, but I hope you guys like it. Let me know what you think. Do you buy into these off-season workouts? Give me your thoughts. If you like the videos that I'm sharing, like, share it to your friends, subscribe, give me feedback. Have a wonderful day. And if I don't see you before then,